Hello students, today we will see eliciting requirements. The elicitations is about seeking information about the software, the system and the business. The eliciting requirements is the task of communicating with customers and users to determine what their requirements are. When eliciting requirements is difficult because of problems of scope, in problems of understanding and the problems of volatility, then in problems in scope, in identifying the boundaries of the systems or specifying unnecessary technical details rather than overall system objectives, in problems in understandings what is needed, what the problem's domains is, and what about the computing environments can handle, then problems of volatility due to the requirements change over the times. The following informations can be sought from customers and the users. How is the software to be used on day-to-day basis? What is to be accomplished by the software? What are the objectives and goals of the software product? And how does the software fit into the needs of business? The questions of requirement elicitations used to elicit information about users' requirements are who, what, their, where, when, why, and how. Then who, to know about the organizational unit, type of job or client to which the requirements relates. Then what, to know about the tasks that need to be performed, that is functional requirements. Then where, to know about the types of machines, for example client, server, etc., on which the processing is required to be done. Then when, one can know several aspects of requirements through these questions, for example performance, order, period of times. Then why, to know the relational behind the requirements of why the software is needed. Then how, to know the how the tasks are initiated and performed and how the results are delivered. Then a requirements elicitations process can be depicted by using these figures. Process contains requirement gathering, then second phase is requirement organization, third is negotiation and discussion, and last phase is requirement specifications. Then we will see one by one. First is requirement gathering. The developer discuss with the client and end users and know their expectation from the softwares. That means in this requirement gathering discussion between developers, end users and clients, and they know their expectations from the softwares. Then second phase is organizing requirements. This the developer priorities and arrange the requirements in order of importance, urgency and convenience. Then third step is negotiations and discussions. If requirements are ambiguous or there are some conflict in requirements of various stakeholders, if they are, it is then negotiated and discussed with stakeholders. Requirements may be the prioritized and reasonably compromises. Then last step is documentations. All formal and informal, functional and non-functional requirements are documented and made available for next page processing. These are the processes of requirement eliciting. Then approaches for requirement elicitations. First is collaborative requirement gathering. Today, many different approaches to collaborative requirements gathering have been proposed, and each and every makes use of slightly different scenarios, but all apply some variations on the following basis guidelines. Rules for preparing and participations are established. Meetings are conducted and attended by both software engineer and other stakeholders. A facilitator controls the meeting. An agenda is suggested that is formal enough to cover all important points but informal enough to encourage the free flow of ideas. The definition mechanisms is used. Then second is quality functional deployment, QFD. QFD is the quality management technique that translates the need of customers into technical requirements for software. Then QFD concentrate on maximizing the customer satisfactions from the software engineering processes. To accomplish this, QFD emphasizes an understanding of what is valuable to be the customer and then deploy these values throughout the engineering processes. Then QFD identifies three types of requirements: normal requirements, expected requirements, and exciting requirements. Then third is usage scenario. As requirements in requirement gatherings are gathered and overall visions of the system functions and features begin to materialize. However, it is difficult to move into more technical software engineering activities until you understand how these functions and features will be used by different classes of the end users. Then fourth is elicitations work product. The work product produced as a consequence of requirement elicitations will vary depending on the size of system or the size of product to be built. For most systems, the work products includes a bounded system of scope of the system or product, a statements of need and feasibility, any prototypes developed to better define requirements, set of usage scenario that provide insight into the use of system or product under different operating conditions. Then a description of system technical environment. Fifth phase is agile requirement elicitations. Within the context of agile process, requirements are elicited by asking all stakeholders or to create user stories. A user story is a tool used in agile software development to capture a description of a software feature from an end user perspective. A story user story describes the type of user, what they want, and why. A user story helps to create a simplified description of the requirements. Each and every user story describes the simple system requirements written from the user perspectives. Then last page is service oriented methods. Service oriented development in software engineering views a system as an aggregation of service. A service can be simple as providing a single function, for example a request or response based mechanism that provide a series of random numbers, or can be aggregation of complex elements such as web service API. Requirement elicitation in service oriented deployment focuses on the definition of service to be rendered by the applications, and most service designs method emphasize understanding the customer, thinking creativity, and building solution quickly. These are the approaches of requirement elicitations. Then requirement elicitation techniques. Requirement elicitation is the process to find out the requirements for an intended software system by communicating with clients, end users, system users, and others who have the stake in software systems development. There are various ways to discover requirements. Some of them are: first is interviews, survey, questionnaires, and observations. Then we will see one by one. First is interviews. Interviews are the strong medium to collect requirements. Organization may conduct several types of interviews such as structured interviews, that means closed interviews, where every single information to gather is decided in advance and they follow patterns and matter of discussion firmly. Then non-structures, that means open interview, where information to gather is not decided in the advance and more flexible and less based. Then survey, second is survey. Organization may conduct survey among various stakeholders by querying about their expectations, their requirements from the upcoming systems. Then third technique is questionnaires, a document with a predefined set of objectives, questions, and respective options is handed over all the stakeholders to answer, and which are collected and compiled. A shortcoming of this technique is if an options for some issues is not mentioned in the questionnaires and the issue might be left unattended. And then last is observations. Team of experts visit the client organization or workplace and they observe the actual working of the existing installed system. They observe the workflow at the client's end, and how execution problems are dealt. And the team itself draws some conclusion which aids to requirements expected from the softwares, and there are several problems which can surface occur eliciting requirements, which are first is user not sure about the requirements. These situations arises very often when the systems to be developed in completely new system and there is no corresponding manual system or any previous software systems. It can be analyzed to get the requirements. Then second is conflicting requirements. The problems increases with the number of stakeholders involved in the projects, and there may be conflicting needs and priorities of the stakeholders based on business areas and they are covering. Then third is volatile requirements. Requirements may get changed during the elicitation stage due to the entry of new stakeholders who have different perspectives of the system. And although this is helpful in clarifying the requirements better, it sometimes creates frictions between the requirement engineer and stakeholders due to the continuous change in the scope. And last is communication gap. Even if the end users and stakeholders are clear about the need for developing the new system, and they may find it difficult to express it in the concrete manner due to their less exposure to computing the system, and they may state the requirements in an ambiguous or non-testable fashions. These are the several problems which can surface occurs while eliciting requirements.